I've been mulling over and just kind of thinking about this one idea of what am I going to do with the future of this channel, right? Right now it's called Strength Innate, but I was trying to come up with like, all right, what am I going to, like, I don't want to call it Strength Innate. I just came up with Strength Innate temporarily. I'm fast approaching 100 subscribers, and so when I get to 100 subscribers, I'm able to reserve a URL. And so I was thinking to myself, like, what am I going to reserve it as? And so I'm thinking to myself, like, a name, Strength Dojo. But like, what if I wanted to create a lifestyle brand out of this? One of the things I've always wanted to do. It'd be so cool to maybe in the future come up with, like, you know, merchandising, things like that, but around the things that I'm interested in, but at the same time are connected to a particular idea. So I finally cracked it this morning. I've been mulling over it with intensity over the last several days, if not the last week. So check this out. But this is what I just cracked. It is called so Strength Innate. I'm thinking I might change it to Strength Dojo, okay? Because there's a lot of martial arts themes, strength training, and then at the same time, there's this idea of submit every day, that being the motto. Maybe that might be even the name of the channel, while still overall being under the idea of Strength Dojo. But here is the logo I kind of sketched together. Now, some of you, if you're familiar with Jiu-Jitsu, Arabic, and all of that, and even kanji, you might understand what this is. So let me just break this down for you. So the first thing is this, right? That's what the red belt is showcasing. It is showcasing the enso. And I just want to describe the idea behind that circle, behind that enso. And what's interesting is you look it up on Wikipedia. It symbolizes absolute enlightenment, strength, elegance, unity, the universe and the void, and it is characterized by minimalism born of Japanese aesthetics. And drawing the enso is a disciplined, creative practice of Japanese ink painting, sumi. The tools and the mechanics of drawing the enso are the same as those used in traditional Japanese calligraphy. One uses a brush to apply ink to washi, which is thin Japanese paper, and the circle may be open or closed. In the former case, the circle is incomplete, allowing for movement and development as well as perfection of all things. What's interesting here is that this description sounds a lot like Jiu-Jitsu. I found an enso drawing with the term Jiu-Jitsu in it, and what's interesting is there's this concept in Zen known as wabi-sabi, which is the beauty of imperfection. A lot of Japanese gardens tend to showcase a lot of this. And the practice behind drawing this particular circle, according to the article, is basically a person draws the enso in one fluid expressive stroke, and when drawn according to Sosho, which is the style of Japanese calligraphy, the brush stroke itself is supposed to be especially swift. And so once the enso is drawn, one does not change it, and it evidences the character of its creator and the context of its creation in a brief, continuous period of time. And the drawing of the enso is a spiritual practice that one might perform as often as once per day. And what's interesting is this. When I read this, I'm like, yo, this sounds so familiar. Let me show you. Practice of writing, right, in terms of calligraphy and things like that, crossing different cultures. This is Arabic, right? This is Quran. This is Surah Yusuf, in fact. And in fact, the practice of writing Surah Yusuf using basically a chiseled pen. Now, this is me having written and practicing the writing of Surah Yusuf as part of reviewing and memorizing it. Now, what's interesting is comparing that to the writing of Surah Yusuf before. And it is reflective of one's, I guess, level of confidence and skill level and ability. Now, basically, I'm using the same process. I would go over it once in pencil, then go over it again in pen, and with each layer, I would essentially apply the same process over and over again. And so what's interesting is I'm doing the same thing here, but you can see the handwriting is that much more confident and a lot more cleaner and everything. So what's interesting is this practice of writing Quran and writing the Arabic is not coming out of a deliberate idea of like, you know what, I'm going to practice Zen enso, but the fact is that it's right. I mean, it is kind of, in a way, if you look at it, reflective of the creation and the context of, or the creator and the context of its creation in a brief period of time, in the sense of like, you can see the confidence and time and energy put into the writing between Surah Yusuf before and Surah Yusuf after. And it's interesting because these guys, they're doing just for the sake of, practicing the circular motion, just making sure that there's excellence in that. But it's like, it's like this is a tradition that has existed. And it's interesting how this tradition of writing, of perfecting, of excellence, crosses borders. And so, and what's also interesting is that they're saying that the enso, it exemplifies various dimensions of the Japanese wabi-sabi perspective and aesthetic. One is asymmetry, irregularity, simplicity, basic, weathered, without pretense and natural, subtlety yet profound grace, freedom and tranquility. And what's interesting is since there's some very amazing art. I just love just the Japanese watercolor style of art. And there's different, this is one of the ones I noticed showcases this idea of, you draw the enso, and then within that domain, which is, the unity of everything, whereas the void is on the outside, you ignore the outside, focus on the inside. And, people do drawings, and there's different ones. I saw cherry blossoms, I saw this one with the bird. If there's any more here. Oh, by the way, if you guys want to check out all the stuff that I saved on this Pinterest board, you can just go check out the Pinterest board at bilalkhan.com, pinterest.com/bilalkhansocial. And so, there's a couple of these. I don't know if I pinned the other ones, but I'll mention what I've got going on here in a bit. Now, the other element of this particular logo is the triangle. So you'll notice that triangle, and that triangle is actually very deliberate. In fact, this is a triangle that's known as the Gracie triangle or the Jiu-Jitsu triangle. And just to kind of give you context behind that, this is a classic photo of the Gracie brothers, in terms of sparring and rolling with each other in Jiu-Jitsu, and it tends to form a triangle base. Here's another one basically it's a judo move, and in fact Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, this is a derivative of traditional judo. And you'll notice that the triangle tends to be essentially prevalent as a shape in terms of body movement. The Jiu-Jitsu triangle is also known as the Gracie triangle, but it's also one of the most recognized symbols of the principles developed by the Gracie Academy of Jiu-Jitsu. And during time, basically the two brothers who founded Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, which is Carlos and Helio Gracie, these guys, they basically said they taught interested students that the triangle is chosen as a symbol because of how well it represented the firm and stable base of all the practitioners of the styles that should have. So, and I just showed you a picture of the two Gracie brothers sparring, as well as even in judo, which Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a derivative of. They said the three corners of the triangle represent the three components of what is known as Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, which are mind, body, and soul, all of which come together to define the practitioner. Now, Rickson Gracie is the current, I guess you can say, the current master of the family, in the sense of, or the master of the art, that is considered to be at the most upper echelon of the practice. He's like, in the sport, he's undefeated, and he's also considered to be one of the pioneers, of the ones who's pushing the development of Jiu-Jitsu even further. And so he mentions this. Rickson Gracie says, if you imagine a perfect triangle in 3 dimensions, in pyramid form, not just 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional pyramid form, you can see how you can push it to either side and it will always be stable. It regains its solid position every time. The application of this concept works that way. When you are mounted on your opponent and have 3 points of contact, he can move you around and you will easily find your third point again. No matter how or where he moves you, you will be able to find his third point of support. So no matter what side you're pushed to, essentially the idea here is that regardless of your position, you will always remain stable and strong, thus always ready to come at your opponent as represented in the image that I showcased. Here you have one of the Gracie brothers on the bottom. I think that's Helio Gracie, and he's essentially he's got his opponent in a open guard, and he's in a strong position, whereas the person at the top, he's trying to stand up, trying to maintain posture, and he's also in a potentially strong position too. And now it's just a matter of seeing who can subdue, is open the guard, escape, get control, and then submit the other opponent. And what's interesting is they mentioned is because of how powerful and symbolic the practical connotation of the triangle are, the triangle's always stayed a central part of the martial arts style, and it remains an important lesson to all aspiring students to this today. And this brings me over to the next point, and what was the inspiration behind the idea of quwwa. The thing I like about Arabic as a language is that Arabic itself its derivative and root words can almost always be connected back to three letters, three root words, which serve as the foundation and base in which many more words and derivatives are pulled. And so the idea of quwwa, and what's interesting was if we scroll down, this here is the idea of quwwa as in strength. Now, I was doing some research, as I mentioned before here, and I came across this particular graphic, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. The idea of strength and submission, strength and humility going hand in hand, being opposite sides of the same coin, so to speak, and going back to the statement of La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, which is usually translated as that there is no power or nor strength except with the one God, Allah, and so the only one worthy and deserving of worship. And so now this comes with the connotation of understanding that every strong person is weak, and every great person is insignificant when it comes to being compared to the master of the heavens and the earth. And so now this particular image, specifically something that caught my eye because of this part right here, the words quwwa, right? And not just the word quwwa, which means strength and power, but because of the way it was written out. So what I did was I actually basically played around with the content a little bit. I extracted it in vector form. So I took this, kind of traced it out, extracted it, and then I started playing around with it because you have the three circles there. We got the potential enso going there, and then I kind of played around with it in terms of the graphics and turned it down on a base, and just a potential graphic I'm kind of playing around with. So there is, now this is basically how this goes right into this over here in terms of the logo, or at least what I think would be an interesting logo. But as you notice here, this is the whole enso style of writing the circle, or at least here 1, 2, that would be one stroke, that would be one stroke, dot 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 dot, and then the black belt, the Jiu-Jitsu belt, the black belt, could be an open circle because of imperfection, but the continuous development. And just to close off the section in terms of what went behind the idea of quwwa, there's a book written by the scholars of, I guess you can consider them the scholars of history and the documentarians of the past. One of the books is called Riyadh al-Salihin, which is gardens of those who live with, or gardens of those who live with righteousness, or those who live with integrity. One of my favorite people in history, his name is Abdullah bin Zubayr. He is Abdullah, the son of Zubayr, who lived during the 7th century. And there was a statement. He was a companion of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and he is known, and he was recorded to have said the following statement after he would complete his prayers. And the statement goes as such. He would say, La ilaha illallah, there is no one worthy nor deserving of worship except Allah. Wahdahu la sharika lah, He alone, He is alone, meaning Allah is alone, there is no partners with Him. Lahul mulk wa lahul hamd, all dominion belongs to Him, and that He is deserving of all gratitude and praise. Wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir, there is no might nor strength وهو على كل شيء قدير. He is able to do and has power over all things. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. The statement I mentioned earlier, that there is no might nor strength except with Allah. لا إله إلا الله. There is no one worthy nor deserving of worship except Him. ولا نعبد إلا إياه. We worship none except Him. له نعمته وله الفضل. And to Him belong all bounties, and to Him belong all grace. وَلَهُ الثَّنَاء الْحَسَنِ. And to Him belong all excellent praise. لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. There is no one worthy of worship except Allah. مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. To whom we are sincere in this way of life. وَلَوْ كَرِهَ الْكَافِرُونَ. And this is the fact, despite, even though those who deny and reject and cover this truth would be disapproving of it. And so it's a powerful statement, and it's also a recognizing statement after you have completed this act of worship, to God alone. And this statement is just reaffirming that commitment and that submission to Him. But here's the other idea, just the double meaning behind submit every day. And it just goes into the subject and its coupling with strength and quwwah, and its connection to athleticism and jiu-jitsu. So the word jiu-jitsu itself, the art, it's something that means the gentle art, right? That's what the Japanese itself, or the kanji, as it's said, it means, so ju means gentle, and jitsu is art or technique. And so same thing as judo. Judo is the way of the gentle way. Jitsu is the art of the gentle way. And so, or the gentle art. Now what's interesting was I was just making a note here, just took a photo of what I had written down. Nothing is so strong as gentleness, and nothing is so gentle as strength. I saw the quote, I forgot who says it, but it just ties right in with jiu-jitsu as a gentle art. And so, and in regards to the idea of submit every day, oh, by the way, that is a black belt, or jiu-jitsu black belt with the red, the red, I guess, tab or stripe. So, to the multiple meanings behind the idea of submit every day, one is the fact that you have the Islamic spiritual tradition in which one is submitting to the one who is the source of all strength and all power. AlQawiyy, which is to humble oneself in the reality that one has no power except it is through Him. Coupled with the fact that the goal of grappling and a jiu-jitsu match is to submit your opponent, right? To get them to submit, and that's how you win. That's how you win the match. That's how you, even if it's not a sport match, even if it's a self-defense match, the idea is like you want to subdue them and make them submit without having to necessarily hurt them or kill them. And so this is where this art comes into play. It's a gentle art. And so, and finally, the idea of battling yourself. You are your greatest opponent. And so making yourself, your own desires, submit to a higher ideal and higher standard. And there's a quote by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ where it says, strong is not the good wrestler, rather strong is the one who controls himself when angry. So this is the whole idea. I'm just actually kind of really excited in terms of what I want to do with this channel in the future. The last 10 days are fast approaching. I got a lot to supplicate for. And so basically just this idea, this finally just clicked. And I'm about to ready to take a quick nap to let all of this kind of digest and settle in. Basically this is the sketch that I had actually written down on my notebook. And the notes that I had. As you can see, I was playing around with it a little bit. I had quwwah in terms of trying to do it like a Kufic, Iraqi style Arabic, and then basically coming down to the fact that it'd be really cool to do the enso Japanese style. So, and this kind of go with the motto of submit every day. With yourself, making yourself submit. And when it comes to humility, if you get submitted, embrace the reality that you got submitted and learn from it. And so just this whole motto of submit every day, whether you submit someone or you get someone to submit, or you submit yourself to the higher ideals, I think all of that is what this whole thing's going to be about. It's coming from a just intense, focused thought into what I want, what I like, what I appreciate in terms of design, pop culture, athleticism, spiritual tradition, and committing to something for the next decade, right? In terms of the things that I want to commit to for the next decade, I'm looking at it right here in front of me. One is, just the gentle art, and the other is just the Quranic spiritual learning and this idea of writing and stuff. So, and maybe this might be something that would be tied to that. Personally, one of the things that I was really inspired by is this right here. So Rogues Apparel is this guy that's local to Houston. I saw him at the Houston Japan Festival, and one of the things that he's got going on is that he got these shirts, right? They're actually decent quality shirts, but he basically takes some of the inspiration that one can see over here, and like for example, you've got like this samurai guy. This is all stuff I kind of tagged up on Pinterest. Similar kinds of art, and then from there, you see the inspiration that comes out as a design on his shirt that he kind of makes in-house himself. So seeing this kind of stuff, it'd be really cool. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments below. I'm looking forward to hearing, or not hearing, but reading them. I'll see you soon.